Why are there things you can't tell anyone about? There are moments in life when we carry thoughts, feelings, or experiences that feel too heavy, too personal, or too complex to share with others. These are the things we keep locked away, not because we don't trust anyone, but because the act of sharing them seems impossible or fraught with consequences. The reasons why certain things remain unspoken are deeply rooted in human psychology, social dynamics, and the nature of personal experience. This essay explores why there are things we can't tell anyone about, examining the roles of fear, self-protection, societal expectations, and the limits of language itself. Fear of judgment and rejection. One of the primary reasons we withhold certain thoughts or experiences is the fear of being judged or misunderstood. Humans are inherently social beings, and our sense of belonging often depends on how others perceive us. Sharing something deeply personal, whether it's a controversial opinion, a shameful memory, or an unconventional desire, can feel like exposing a vulnerable part of ourselves to potential criticism or rejection. For example, someone might hesitate to share a past mistake out of fear that it will permanently alter how others view them. This fear of judgment creates a barrier, making silence feel safer than vulnerability. Moreover, the fear of rejection extends beyond immediate social circles to broader societal norms. Certain topics, such as mental health struggles, unconventional beliefs, or taboo desires, may carry stigma that discourages open discussion. Even in close relationships, the worry that sharing something might disrupt the dynamic or lead to alienation can keep us silent. The instinct to protect our social standing often outweighs the desire to unburden ourselves. Self-protection and emotional safety. Another reason we keep things to ourselves is to protect our emotional well-being. Sharing a deeply personal experience can reopen wounds or force us to relive painful moments. For instance, someone who has experienced trauma might avoid discussing it because articulating the event could trigger intense emotions or memories they've worked hard to manage. Keeping such experiences private becomes a form of self-preservation, allowing individuals to maintain control over their emotional state. Additionally, some things remain unspoken because we anticipate that others won't fully understand or empathize. If we share a complex or deeply personal experience and receive a dismissive or inadequate response, it can feel like a betrayal of our vulnerability. To avoid this emotional risk, we may choose to keep our thoughts and feelings private, trusting that silence is safer than the possibility of being misunderstood. Societal expectations and cultural norms. Societal expectations also play a significant role in why certain things remain unspoken. Every culture has its own set of norms about what is acceptable to discuss openly. Topics like grief, sexuality, or personal failures may be considered private or inappropriate in some contexts, leading individuals to internalize the belief that these matters should not be shared. For example, in some cultures, openly discussing mental health challenges is still stigmatized, leading people to suffer in silence rather than seek support. Gender norms can further complicate what we feel comfortable sharing. Men, for instance, may feel pressure to suppress emotions like sadness or fear to conform to expectations of stoicism, while women might avoid expressing anger to avoid being labeled as overly emotional. These societal pressures create invisible boundaries around what we feel we can say, even to those closest to us. The limits of language and understanding. Sometimes, the reason we can't tell anyone about certain things lies in the inadequacy of language to capture the depth of our experiences. Human emotions and thoughts can be profoundly complex, and words often fall short of conveying their full weight. For example, trying to explain a moment of profound grief, spiritual revelation, or existential doubt might feel futile because no combination of words seems to do it justice. This limitation can lead to a sense of isolation, as we realize that even our best efforts to communicate may not bridge the gap between our inner world and someone else's understanding. Furthermore, some experiences are so unique to an individual that they feel incommunicable. A deeply personal dream, an intuition, or a fleeting moment of clarity might resonate so strongly within us but seem trivial or incomprehensible to others. The fear that sharing these moments will diminish their significance can lead us to keep them private. The power of secrets and personal identity. Finally, there's an element of identity tied to the things we keep to ourselves. Our secrets, whether they're dreams, regrets, or hidden desires, are part of what makes us unique. Sharing them can feel like giving away a piece of ourselves, diluting the intimacy of our inner world. In some cases, holding on to these private thoughts gives us a sense of autonomy and control, a space where we can exist free from external judgment or influence. Moreover, some secrets are kept because they are tied to our sense of agency. For instance, someone might choose not to share a personal goal or ambition until it's achieved, out of a desire to prove it to themselves first. In this way, keeping certain things private becomes an act of self-definition, a way to carve out a space that is wholly our own. Conclusion: the things we can't tell anyone about are often the ones that shape us the most. Whether driven by fear of judgment, a need for emotional self-protection, societal pressures, the limits of language, or a desire to preserve our personal identity, these unspoken thoughts and experiences are a universal part of the human condition. While sharing can foster connection and understanding, there is also value in recognizing that some things are meant to remain private. These hidden pieces of ourselves remind us of our complexity, our individuality, and the quiet strength it takes to carry them alone. Everyone has a vault of secrets, a collection of thoughts, memories, and feelings that remain locked away from the outside world. Some of these secrets are trivial, like a silly mistake or an embarrassing hobby. Others, however, are deeply personal and profoundly significant. The reasons we keep these things to ourselves are as varied and complex as human nature itself. We guard these inner worlds because we fear judgment, seek to protect others, or simply need a private space to hold our most vulnerable selves. One of the most powerful reasons we keep things to ourselves is the fear of judgment. We worry that if we reveal our deepest flaws, our most irrational fears, or our past mistakes, others will see us differently. This fear can be paralyzing, leading us to build a carefully curated version of ourselves for public consumption. We may hide our insecurities about our careers, our relationships, or our bodies, believing that if others knew the truth, they would no longer respect or love us. This fear of being seen as less than perfect can create a chasm between our external persona and our internal reality, leaving us feeling isolated and misunderstood. We choose silence not because we want to deceive, but because we want to be accepted. Beyond the fear of personal judgment, we often keep secrets to protect others. We may have information that, if revealed, could cause pain, distress, or conflict. This could be anything from a friend's secret struggle with addiction to a family member's past betrayal. We hold on to these things to preserve a sense of peace or to shield someone we care about from the consequences of the truth. In these cases, the burden of the secret is a choice, a silent sacrifice we make out of love or loyalty. We become the keepers of another's vulnerability, and in doing so, we share their burden without ever letting on. Finally, there are things we can't tell anyone about because they are a fundamental part of our private self. This isn't about fear or protection. It's about the inherent human need for an inner sanctum. We all require a space where we can process our thoughts and emotions without the influence of external opinions. This private world is where we can be our most authentic selves, where we can wrestle with our deepest doubts and explore our most profound dreams. Sharing everything would be like living with the blinds perpetually open. There would be no mystery, no personal space, and no room for quiet introspection. Some thoughts are meant to be a conversation only with ourselves, helping us to define who we are outside of our relationships with others. In the end, the things we can't tell anyone about are a testament to the intricate nature of human connection and individuality. They are the shadows that give depth to our characters. They are the silent choices we make to navigate the complexities of our relationships. While a completely open and honest world may seem ideal, the reality is that some things are meant to be kept private. Our secrets are not just burdens, but also a vital part of our identity, shaping who we are and how we relate to the world around us. They are a reminder that even in an age of constant sharing, our inner lives remain profoundly and necessarily our own. The unspoken sanctuary. Why there are things you can't tell anyone about. To be human is to harbor a secret world. Within each of us exists a vast, private landscape of thoughts, memories, and feelings, a territory where not every path is meant for others to tread. The existence of things we cannot tell anyone is not a symptom of social failure or a descent into isolation, but rather a fundamental and necessary aspect of the human experience. This unspoken realm is shaped by a complex interplay of self-preservation, social cohesion, and the very nature of our inner selves. Foremost among the reasons for our silence is the primal instinct for self-protection. Vulnerability, while the bedrock of deep connection, is also a state of profound risk. To share a secret shame, a paralyzing fear, or a deeply unconventional desire is to hand another person a map to our most tender parts. The fear of judgment, rejection, or betrayal is a powerful censor. A confession might alter how a loved one sees us, transforming their perception from one of admiration or affection to pity or disdain. We withhold to maintain our dignity, to preserve the persona we have carefully constructed, and to protect ourselves from the potential emotional fallout. This is not always duplicity. It is often a form of emotional armor, a way to ensure that our internal world remains a safe haven, even if that safety is maintained by solitude. Furthermore, our silence is frequently an act of protection for others. The unspoken thing is not always a personal transgression. Sometimes, it is a painful truth whose revelation would serve no purpose but to cause harm. A parent may hide the depths of their worry from a child. A friend may conceal a harsh opinion to preserve a bond, and a partner may bear a private grief to shield the other from shared pain. This is the ethics of withholding, the understanding that truth, while valuable, is not an absolute good that trumps compassion. In these cases, silence becomes a burdensome gift, a weight carried alone so that others may continue unburdened. It is a recognition that some knowledge can be a poison, and choosing not to administer it is an act of love. Beyond the interpersonal, the architecture of society itself is built upon a foundation of agreed-upon silences. Social harmony relies on a certain level of discretion and the unspoken adherence to norms. Constantly voicing every critical thought, every flash of envy, or every moment of visceral dislike would render communal life unbearable. This civilizing function of secrecy allows for cooperation and politeness, creating a buffer between our raw, unfiltered instincts and the polished interactions that enable us to live and work together. It is the glue that prevents the entire structure from fracturing under the pressure of unchecked honesty. Finally, there is a category of the unspeakable that resides in the ineffable nature of our own consciousness. Some experiences, the depth of love felt for a child, the sublime awe of a particular landscape, the contours of a private sorrow, are so deeply personal and nuanced that language itself fails us. Words can approximate, but they can never fully encapsulate the totality of the feeling. To attempt to share it is to inevitably diminish it, to reduce a symphony to a single note. These things remain locked away not out of fear or duty, but because they are, in their purest form, untranslatable. They are the sacred texts of our private religion, known only through direct experience. In conclusion, the things we cannot tell anyone are not merely shadows to be unearthed and eliminated in the pursuit of absolute transparency. They are an integral part of our humanity. They serve as a shield for the self, a blanket for others, a mortar for society, and a sanctuary for the experiences that defy expression. This private world is not a prison of loneliness, but a sacred inner chamber. It is what allows us to navigate the public world with resilience, empathy, and grace. To acknowledge the necessity of this unspoken realm is to understand that a complete life is not one lived entirely in the light of shared confession. but one that wisely balances the solace of company with the sacredness of its own silence.